Legendary Passages, Episode 66, Vice and Virtue, Herculean Work Ethic, from Xenophon's Memorabilia. Last time we heard snippets from the life of Heracles. This time we focus on him as a youth, deciding what sort of man he shall become. This is a dialogue between Socrates and Aristippus, with a few quotations as well. Aristippus asks if there is any difference between hardships chosen and those imposed. Socrates claims that self-imposed hardships build character, and toil is far superior to laziness. Quoting from Prodicus, the figure of vice tempts Heracles with ease and delights. Then, the manifestation of virtue offers him respect and self-worth. Next time, the Protidian gate of Thebes. Vice and Virtue, a legendary passage from Xenophon's Memorabilia, translated by H.D. Dakyns.
But Socrates, to return to your pupil educated in the royal art, which, if I mistake not, you hold to be happiness, how, may I ask, will he be better off than others who lie in evil case, in spite of themselves, simply because they suffer perforce? But in this case, the hunger and the thirst, the cold shivers and the lying awake at nights, with all the changes he will ring on in pain, are of his own choosing? For my part, I cannot see what difference it makes, provided it is one and the same bare back which receives the stripes, whether the whipping be self-appointed or unasked for. Nor indeed does it concern my body in general, provided it be my body, whether I am beleaguered by a whole armament of such evils of my own will, or against my will, except only for the folly which attaches to self-appointed suffering.
What, Aristippus, does it seem to you that, as regards such matters, there is all the difference between voluntary and involuntary suffering, in that he who starves of his own accord can eat when he chooses, and he who thirsts of his own free will can drink, and so for the rest. But he who suffers in these ways, perforce, cannot desist from the suffering when the humor takes him? Again, he who suffers hardship voluntarily gaily confronts his troubles, being buoyed on by hope, just as a hunter in pursuit of wild beasts, through the hope of capturing his quarry, finds toil a pleasure, and these are but prizes of little worth in return for their labors. But what shall we say of their reward, who toil to obtain to themselves good friends, or to subdue their enemies, or that through strength of body and soul they may administer their households well, befriend their friends, and befit the land which gave them birth? Must we not suppose that these too will take their sorrows lightly, looking to these high ends? Must we not suppose that they too will gaily confront existence, who have to support them not only their conscious virtue, but the praise and admiration of the world? And once more, habits of indolence, along with the fleeting pleasures of the moment, are incapable, as gymnastic trainers say, of setting up a good habit of body, or of implanting in the soul any knowledge worthy of account. Whereas by painstaking endeavor in the pursuit of high and noble deeds, as good men tell us, through endurance we shall in the end attain the goal. So Hesiod somewhere says,
Wickedness may a man take wholesale with ease. Smooth is the way, and her dwelling place is very nigh. But in front of virtue the immortal gods have placed toil and sweat. Long is the path and steep that leads to her, and rugged at the first. But when the summit of the pass is reached, then for all its roughness the path grows easy.
And Epicharmus bears his testimony when he says, The gods sell us good things in return for our labors. And again, in another passage, he exclaims, Set not thine heart on soft things, thou knave, lest thou light upon the hard. and that wise man Prodicus delivers himself in a like strain concerning virtue in that composition of his about Heracles, which crowds have listened to. This, as far as I can recollect it, is the substance at least of what he says. When Heracles was emerging from boyhood into the bloom of youth, having reached that season in which the young man, now standing upon the verge of independence, shows plainly whether he will enter upon the path of virtue or of vice, he went forth in a quiet place, and sat debating with himself which of these two paths he should pursue. And as he sat there musing, there appeared to him two women of great stature, which drew nigh to him. The one was fair to look upon, frank and free by gift of nature, her limbs adorned with purity, and her eyes with bashfulness. Sobriety set the rhythm of her gait, and she was clad in white apparel. The other was of a different type. The fleshy softness of her limbs betrayed her nature, while the complexion of her skin was embellished that she might appear whiter and rosier than she really was, and her figure that she might seem taller than nature made her. She stared with wide-open eyes, and the raiment wherewith she was clad served but to reveal the ripeness of her bloom. With frequent glances she surveyed her person, or looked to see if others noticed her, while ever and anon she fixed her gaze upon the shadow of herself intently. Now when these two had drawn near to Heracles, she who was first named advanced at an even pace towards him, but the other, in her eagerness to outstrip her, ran forward to the youth, exclaiming, "I see you, Heracles, in doubt and difficulty what path of life to choose. Make me your friend, and I will lead you to the pleasantest road and easiest. This I promise you, you shall taste all of life's sweets and escape all bitters. In the first place, you shall not trouble your brain with war or business. Other topics shall engage your mind. Your only speculation, what meat or drink you shall find agreeable to your palate, what delight of ear or eye, what pleasure of smell or touch, what darling lover's intercourse shall most enrapture you. How shall you pillow your limbs in softest slumber? How cull each individual pleasure without alloy of pain? And if ever the suspicion steal upon you that the streams of joy will one day dawdle, trust me, I will not lead you where you shall replenish the store by toil of body and trouble of soul. No, others shall labor, but you shall reap the fruits of their labors. You shall withhold your hand from naught which shall bring you gain. For to all my followers I give authority and power to help themselves freely from every side." Heracles, hearing these words, made answer, "What, O lady, is the name you bear?" To which she, "Know that my friends call me Happiness, but they that hate me have their own nicknames for me, Vice and Naughtiness." But just then the other of those fair women approached and spoke. "Heracles, I too am come to you, seeing that your parents are well known to me, and in your nurture I have gauged your nature. Wherefore I entertain good hope that if you choose the path which leads to me, you shall greatly bestir yourself to be the doer of many a doughty deed of noble emprise, and that I too shall be held in even higher honor for your sake, lit with the luster shed by valorous deeds. I will not cheat you with the preludings of pleasure, but I will relate to you the things that are according to the ordinances of God in very truth. Know then that among things that are lovely and of good report, not one have the gods bestowed upon mortal men apart from toil and pains. Would you obtain the favor of the gods, then you must pay these same gods service. Would you be loved by your friends, you must benefit these friends. Do you desire to be honored by the state? You must give the state your aid. Do you claim admiration for your virtue from all Hellas? You must strive to do some good to Hellas. Do you wish earth to yield her fruits to you abundantly? To earth you must pay your court. Do you seek to amass riches from your flocks and herds? On them you must bestow your labor. Or is it your ambition to be potent as a warrior, able to save your friends and subdue your foes? Then you must learn the arts of war from those who have knowledge, and practice their application in the field when learned. Or would you even be powerful of limb and body, then you must habituate limbs and body to obey the mind, and exercise yourself with toil and sweat. At this point, as Prodicus relates, Vice broke in, exclaiming, "See, Heracles, how hard and long the road is by which yonder woman would escort you to her festal joys, but I will guide you by a short and easy road to happiness." Then spoke Virtue, "Nay, wretched one, what good thing hast thou, or what sweet thing art thou acquainted with, that wilt stir neither hand nor foot to gain it? Thou, that mayest not even await the desire of pleasure, but, or ever that desire springs up, art already satiated, eating before thou hungerest, and drinking before thou thirsteth, who to eke out an appetite must invent an army of cooks and confectioners, and to whet thy thirst must lay down costliest wines, and run up and down in search of ice in summer time. To help thy slumbers, soft coverlets suffice not, but couches and feather beds must be prepared thee, and rockers to rock thee to rest. Since desire for sleep, in thy case, springs not from toil, but from vacuity, and nothing in the world to do. Even the natural appetite of love thou forcest prematurely by every means thou mayst devise, confounding the sexes in thy service. Thus thou educatest thy friends, with insult in the night season, and drowse of slumber during the precious hours of the day. Immortal, thou art cast forth from the company of gods, and by good men art dishonored. That sweetest sound of all, the voice of praise, has never thrilled thine ears, and the fairest of all fair visions is hidden from thine eyes that have never beheld one bounteous deed wrought by thine own hand. If thou openest thine lips in speech, who will believe thy word? If thou hast need of aught, none shall satisfy thee. What sane man will venture to join thy rabbly rout? Ill indeed are thy revellers to look upon, young men impotent of body, and old men witless in mind. In the heyday of life they batten in sleek idleness, and warily do they drag through an age of wrinkled wretchedness. And why? They blush with shame at the thought of deeds done in the past, or groan for weariness at what is left to do. During their youth they ran riot through their sweet things, and laid up for themselves large store of bitterness against the time of eld. But companionship is with the gods, and with the good men among my conversation. No bounteous deed, divine or human, is wrought without my aid. Therefore I am honored in heaven preeminently, and upon earth among men whose right it is to honor me, as a beloved fellow-worker of all craftsmen, a faithful guardian of house and lands whom the owners bless, a kindly helpmeet of servants, a brave assistant in the labors of peace, an unflinching ally in the deeds of war, a sharer in all friendships indispensable. To my friends is given an enjoyment of meats and drinks, which is sweet in itself and devoid of trouble, and that they can endure until desire ripens, and sleep more delicious visits them than those who toil not. Yet they are not pained to part with it, nor for the sake of slumber do they let slip the performance of their duties. Among my followers the youth delight in the praise of his elders, and the old man glories in the honor of the young. With joy do they call to memory their deeds of old, and in today's well-doing are well pleased. For my sake they are dear in the sight of God, beloved of their friends, and honored by the country of their birth. And when the appointed goal is reached, they lie not down in oblivion with dishonor, but bloom afresh, their praise resounding on the lips of men forever. Toils like these, O son of noble parents, Heracles, it is yours to meet with, and having endured, to enter into the heritage assured you of transcendent happiness. This, Aristippus, in rough sketch, is the theme which Prodicus pursues in his education of Heracles by virtue. Only he decked out his sentiments, I admit, in far more magnificent phrases than I have ventured on. Were it not well, Aristippus, to lay to heart these sayings, and to strive to bethink you somewhat of that which touches the future of our life?